everyone. Today's Wednesday, January 26, 2022, and we're here for a work session. And as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ken, can you please take the lead?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ken. And as most of you may know by now, yesterday the town board and I, along with Dawn Thomas and her team, were presented with a ceremonial check of $10 million for Downtown Revitalization Initiative, also known as the DRI grant. I could not be more pleased for the town and for the giant positive leap forward that this check signifies for our downtown and our transit-oriented area. We have always known the potential that our downtown and this check has, and we are definitely moving forward. There is a lot of potential. We definitely are on our way, and we're honored and humbled to have been a recipient among such a stiff competition for many years, and know that this will be transformative for the entire Riverhead. And thank you again, Governor Hochul, for believing in us, and I think you have a copy of the check, correct?
I do. This is my new whoopee.
That's your new
My new whoopee.
I think you're going to show it to the camera.
Where's the camera?
Oh, yeah, right in front of you.
Which one? That one?
Right in front of you, where the seal is, where Larry is.
I'm not good at this stuff.
We offered to make, we almost made the one a 7. That would have been really good, but we can't.
But it's okay. We're working there in that direction,
So,
so.
and I understand there's going to be more coming and a lot of great things happening
Yep.
within the next year here. And thank you, Dawn, again, and your whole team for being so instrumental. Thank you. Just give us. And moving forward to our first discussion, we have Greg Berman here to discuss matters surrounding update on secret status and recommended next steps regarding the site plan for proposed addition to the Suffolk Theater. And Greg, can you come forward? Good morning.
So we have a project update for the Suffolk Theater addition, which consists of expanding the north end of the Suffolk Theater to allow for expanded green room and backstage areas, ground level retail or commercial, approximately 3,000 square feet, and 28 apartments on the upper floors through floors 2 through 5. Back in October, the town board classified the action as a type 1 action under SECRA and initiated coordinated review. The planning department did distribute comments to all the involved agencies. So this is just a quick update on some of the comments we've received back. From the Riverhead Water District, we did receive comments. I won't read them verbatim, but the gist of the comments was that the applicant needs to consult with the Water District to pay for the preparation of a mapping plan. That mapping plan is going to detail it's going to be an engineering report, which will detail the need for any improvements to water mains, fire hydrants, any sort of infrastructure that's needed to support the proposed development. And we also did receive comments from the State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. SHPO did note that the Suffolk Theater is a contributing building within the National Register listed Riverhead Main Street Historic District. One of their comments was that they said, it appears the new construction will be highly visible from the street in front of the theater. They recommended that the height be brought down considerably so it's barely visible from the street. Now, I did speak on the phone with the representative from SHPO who prepared that letter. SHPO is essentially advisory in this capacity unless the applicant seeks additional state or federal funding or certain permits from them. They are really an advisory board. Back in 2019, the applicant did prepare, this was something that we had identified early on, they did prepare renderings which kind of give visual sight lines from different points along East Main Street. The demonstrations really identify that the project will not have a significant visual impact from East Main Street. It's set far enough back, the height of the Suffolk Theater, based on the sight lines. It's not that it will be completely invisible, but it's not going to have a significant impact based on the sight lines. There may be some impact as you get further down by the river, opening the town square. But again, there will only be a portion of that building that will be visible from atop of the existing Suffolk Theater facade. And the applicant did provide some information regarding parking and how the existing parking configuration behind the theater would be impacted. On page 3 of that report, they basically took an aerial image of the existing parking lot, overlaid it with the current as-built. When the town reconfigured that parking lot to the north, they really did take into account the construction of Suffolk Theater. So there's approximately, and now this is not explicitly identified on the plans, but just looking back and forth, it looks as though 12 existing stalls will be removed. However, the applicant is proposing 10 parking spaces around the perimeter of that building. So really, we're looking at possibly a net loss of maybe 2 parking stalls. I do recommend that prior to approvals, the applicant just clear that up. I'm not going to recommend that the applicant provide a survey of the entire parking lot, but they should provide a survey prepared by a licensed surveyor of a limited area, just so that we can identify the drive aisle widths, parking stall widths, and, make sure that it's necessary for fire service and emergency.
What location would these stalls be at?
So on page 4 of the report, the most current aerial image taken from Near Maps, I identified in red boxes these stalls that would potentially be eliminated. So you've got basically 3 banks of 4 parking stalls that will be eliminated. And then there's a question, and again, it's because it's not clearly scaled out, there may be a bank that might need to be modified. So it's really those first banks would definitely need to be eliminated in order to facilitate construction. But again, they would be picked up 10 stalls around the perimeter of that proposed plaza area. In terms of lighting, this was identified early on. The applicant needs to identify they're proposing exterior accent lighting along the face of the building. They appear to exceed the maximum mounting height permitted by town code, which is 16 feet above grade. They need to identify that in order to identify if the applicant needs variances from the zoning board before it goes forward for approvals. We did have 2 other projects. 205 Osborne proposed a similar thing where they're proposing exterior lighting at, I think it was 18 feet and then 40 feet. The zoning board denied those requests for the variances for lighting. So they just need to identify those in the plans before we move forward on approvals. Based on the review of the project, though, however, the coordination period for SECR is over. Staff recommends the town board assume lead agency and issue a negative declaration. However, the board should consider the timing of approvals for the project as it relates to construction of any kind of structured parking within the downtown area. Between this project and one that we're also going to be reviewing, there will be additional stresses on the parking.
Mr. Personnowski would like to speak.
Yeah, I just want to clear, Greg, I forgot when I spoke to you yesterday.
Vic, come up to the table so
Yeah,
I can
come
hear
up.
you on the mic.
Vic Personnowski, 533 Elton Street. I'm a representative of the Suffolk Theater. I spoke to our architect, and number 1, no way will any of the lighting exceed the town code. Number 2, he said he sent you a corrected version, but if that's not the case, we'll get it to him as soon as possible, because he did bring that up to me before
Okay.
I went to Florida. And when I spoke to Rick, he said in no way are we exceeding it, but he'll clarify that for you. So with no way we want to go to zoning board of appeals. The rest of it, we're fine with.
Okay. Fine,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Greg. Okay, Greg, don't run away yet.
Oh, I'm not going to.
Because you're also here to discuss matters surrounding the site plan and the special permit application for the proposed 5-story mixed-use building at 103-105 East Main Street. So, Greg, it's all yours again.
Thank you. We do have Wayne Steck here to represent this application. So we have a site plan and special permit application seeking approval to demolish an existing commercial building, construct a 5-story mixed-use building consisting of approximately 7,300 square feet of ground floor commercial space, which is proposed as retail and restaurant use, and a total of 48 apartments on floors 2 through 5. Special permit is required for this application because they're proposing to exceed the 80% allowable lot coverage within the Riverhead Parking District Number 1. The application is considered a type 1 action under SECR, which will require coordinated review. The project is located on the south side of East Main Street at 103 to 105 East Main Street, which is currently the old West Marine Building. It's adjacent to the town-owned right-of-way, which is presently and located in the Downtown Center 1, DC1 zoning district. Pursuant to the special permit process in Town Code, the plans will be referred to the Planning Board for their review and comments regarding the special permit. Currently proposed, the application will require variances because 12 of the proposed studio apartment units exceed the maximum square footage of 450 square feet for studio efficiency units. We received architectural plans and engineered plans. I do note that the plans that were submitted, these drawings are current, the applicant just submitted those. They do need to be updated to reflect the renderings. In terms of parking, we've got an application because they're located within the Riverhead Parking District. They're not required to provide any on-site parking. I do note that if you were to look at the town's parking schedule, the applicant, if they were required to provide on-site parking, they would be required to provide 99 parking stalls, and that's based on the rate of 1.5 parking stalls per dwelling unit and a rate of 1 parking stall per 300 square feet of the ground floor commercial space. So the increased parking demand, again, with all the applications we're reviewing in downtown, will create additional stress on the capacity of the parking district. The town board should consider adopting some of the recommendations that were contained within the January 2020 strategic parking plan. Among them, they recommended altering timed signage regulations to disperse parking demand throughout the downtown area, establishing unified signage programs, implementing pilot employee and residential parking programs, and potentially implementing fee in lieu of parking policies. I did also note the Suffolk County Planning Commission somewhat recently prepared a draft model ordinance for parking stall demand reduction, which makes a number of recommendations for techniques to help reduce the demand for parking for projects. Some of them, not all of them, would not be necessarily applicable to this project, but the applicant could consider providing bicycle lockers, bike share stations, etc. In terms of compliance with the pattern book, which was adopted by the town board by resolution number 2021-60 back in January of 2021, that pattern book set forth a number of recommendations to help guide design standards for private development within the DC1 district. Although those recommendations have not yet been codified into the town code by the board has been agreeable and has looked for some of those improvements with other projects. As you recall, with 205 Osborne, when it came back to the board, we pressed the applicant to provide that 5th floor step back to help reduce the building massing. I just do note it's actually kind of interesting on page 4 of the report. The pattern book gives a hypothetical proposal for development, which really very closely echoes the size, location, and orientation of this current project. It's almost like they took this and used that for the model with regards to the primary street and the secondary street frontages. Specific to this project, which the board should consider having the applicant comply with. Building height, right now, the maximum height in the DC1 zoning district is 60 feet. The pattern book recommends a maximum 4-story, 50-foot height. Pattern book recommends the step backs 45 degrees above the 3rd story, or where a 3rd story parapet would be. Minimum front street setbacks and 0 net energy. That front yard setback, I just go into some detail on page 6. Pattern book recommends a minimum setback equal to adjacent buildings on the same fronts with a maximum setback of 3 feet from adjacent buildings. And a minimum setback of 13 feet from the face of the curb. Right now, the current front yard setback from the face of the curb ranges from 12 to 14 feet, but there are some street tree pits on East Main Street, so the approximate clear distance between the building and those street tree pits ranges between 6 and 7 feet. Given that the proposed commercial space on East Main Street is a restaurant, the applicant should consider providing a 3-foot setback that would provide some additional room for outdoor seating. Outdoor dining's been very popular, so that should be something to consider. They are proposing construction, staging areas, and closures. The sidewalk on both the north and south side of the buildings would be temporarily fenced off during construction. as well as the entirety of the town right-of-way. If the town board does desire to allow that town right-of-way to be used for construction staging, they would require a temporary construction easement. I do note, however, right now, the entirety of that right-of-way is proposed to be blocked off. However, on the western side of that right-of-way, there is the handicapped accessible ramp for the barber shop, which is located on the back end of that building at 93 to 95 East Main Street, as well as the delivery door and the refrigerator area for the restaurant, which was previously known as Sonny's Grill, with a new tenant expected shortly in that area. So at minimum, that western sidewalk would need to be kept clear to be able to provide access to those two areas. Regarding piling and vibration impacts, the site plan currently proposes to use helical piles to provide support for the structure's foundation. The use of helical piles as opposed to traditional pile-driven supports is expected to significantly reduce any type of vibration impacts to neighboring buildings. However, the town board could require an assessment from a licensed design professional regarding potential impacts. We did require that for the 331 East Main Street project. The applicant did have a geotechnical engineer perform an analysis of vibration impacts. And with other developments, the town board may consider requiring pre-construction surveys of the neighboring buildings and to provide vibration monitoring during construction. This would help protect both the project developer as well as the neighboring property owners in the event that there is damage from construction. There are existing utility wires along East Main Street as well as that town right-of-way, which, consistent with other development, we would look to have the applicant put those lines underground for both aesthetic purposes and for fire safety purposes. Burying those lines would impact some of the utility connections. It looks like there's a utility connection that crosses that town right-of-way, which feeds the Sonny's Grill building, so the applicant would need to address that when they bury them. There is a trash collection area on the south side of the building, a 250 square foot refuse area. The plans should include curb depressions to allow for a garbage truck to access that area. I do note that each floor of the residential apartments does include a trash collection room. The applicant should just provide details as to how the trash collection will be managed from the residential areas. Right now, all of the exterior lighting is proposed at 6 feet above grade. There is no lighting that exceeds the maximum height for town code, and they're all 3,000 degree color temperature. Site plan does not currently propose any landscaping. The plans appear to call for the removal of the 3 existing street trees within that town right-of-way, but does not propose any replacements. In the version of the plans that have been submitted with the application, the renderings do show some vegetation around that right-of-way. However, the landscaping plans don't accurately reflect that. The applicant just provided me with some updated renderings, and those are more consistent with the lack of landscaping. However, the board should consider requiring some landscaping to help soften the appearance of the building. Connections are proposed to both the water district and sewer district. We'll refer to those plans to those departments during the secret review process. I would anticipate similar requirements for a map and plan to detail the engineering requirements to support the project. The applicant's design professional must detail the need for deep watering during construction in order to install the foundation supports as well as the drainage structures. And then the rest of the involved agencies, Landmarks Preservation, ARB, DOT, Planning Commission, Health Department, PSEG, they will all receive referrals during the secret coordination process. So.
I have one question just regarding the staging. I'm really not comfortable with that right-of-way being used for staging. Is there ample area to the south of the building? Because from the pictures, I can't tell, and I certainly don't want to impact any parking during that time as well. But I kind of have a two-part question. Is that a road or is it a right-of-way?
So it's actually part of it's actually owned by the Riverhead Parking District. It's
Okay.
part of that parking lot. I'm kind of referring it to colloquially as a right-of-way.
Right-of-way, okay.
But it is part of that parking lot all the way back to the parking lot down along the
Yeah,
riverfront.
okay.
But it is owned by the town, so
Okay.
it is town property.
It's the same as Benjamin Place across the street,
Yeah.
basically.
So I mean, in terms of the staging areas, I mean, there is very limited space. I mean, in terms of on the property for staging, I don't really think that it would be feasible to stage construction material on the property. So they do propose to use the town parking lot. The applicant, I mean, if that's a concern, that may be a concern.
What's the duration of the construction, proposed?
About 15 months.
15 months?
And I don't need all this space that he showed on the plans. I
Okay.
only need half that right away on the side. Or I could take space to the back, but I would have to probably still take 5 or 10 feet from the right of way, just so that no one goes too close to the construction site.
Oh, okay, so there is an option.
Okay.
Perfect.
So what's the width of the right-of-way right now if you took 5 to 10 feet away?
I know the road
Can you go to the
section.
microphone, sir?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, I can.
Yeah,
Up here?
there should be a mic in front of you. Good morning.
Good morning.
You want to identify yourself? You want to identify yourself for the...
Wayne Steck, I'm the developer of the Landmark, which is the name of the project at
Great.
103, 105 Main Street. Okay. I forgot what question was already now. What was it?
So the intent is to close that right-of-way for 15 months, what I'm hearing. The other thing I'm hearing is that it's possible to just need a portion of that right-of-way, so I need to know the width and whether a car can get through that.
Okay, right. So at the top, right now, I think the road is between 12 and 14 feet. And at the bottom, it gets to maybe 22 or 23 feet. So I could angle.
It widens at the
Right.
south end,
So
okay.
I could probably keep it at 12 feet wide, the entire length, so a car could get through, and have enough room to still
All right.
mobilize.
It's only
And you'll-
one way going
Yes, it's a
south
one-way
now,
road.
so.
And there'll be a separation, obviously, that the car can't go into.
Yes.
So as long as some type of barrier, that's, okay.
We
And
have a
it's 12
barrier
feet?
also along Main Street in the front. We do need to close the sidewalk because it's too close to the building. So we would do the same type of barriers that we have in the front along the side.
Couple of things. As liaison to the parking district, I just want to say that any project that is going to remove parking spaces from the town, they're not in favor of. But having said that, people mentioned that not having parking or having a parking problem is a good problem, and I agree, but it is still a problem. And the fact that we're bringing these, more and more apartments are coming in without providing parking, and I get it that the parking district says you don't have to, but that doesn't solve the problem for parking. Where are these people going to park?
We had a preliminary plan. We were able to provide 12 parking spaces underneath the building, in the rear of the building. And then when we discovered the flooding issue and the remediation to the flooding, possible raising the whole parking lot, that didn't make it feasible anymore. And actually, our building did comply with the elevation heights from Main Street and the back of Main Street. And then just recently, on a revision, we raised our building 4 feet so that when the town does do the work on the parking lot, our building will actually be ground level. So that's why we're over, and that's why we also cannot provide parking. I do agree that there is, an issue for parking, and hopefully we need even more parking in the future and more people visit. I don't have a solution, but, maybe better walkways from the north and south would spread out the parking, or I know there was discussions of possibly a double-layer parking garage. I don't know if the fees I think the developers have to pay for not having parking contribute to the
Right,
town
that
being
would
able
go
to
towards the
afford that.
parking district to help pursue purchasing land and providing more parking. But in reality, where's that land going to be purchased from? If you look, and we've studied this on the parking district for quite some time, the availability of land going back into Second Street, it's just not there. You would have to raise houses back there, and there's other ideas of houses being being converted over to condos and townhouses, and there's different thoughts coming down the pike. it doesn't help the parking problem. And it's a real factor, because I think even with the town square, we're gonna lose more parking spaces, presumably behind it in the south part of the parking lot. So with all these projects coming in, needing more parking, and we're losing parking, it's something we have to, I think we have to figure out before we go any further.
If I could just make a couple of points on that. So we did work with Wayne and his design professional, because he is directly on the back of what will eventually be the town square. So he did lose that opportunity to put parking below the building, but we have to implement our parking plan, and we haven't been able to get that done yet, just because it's been so much, it's such a giant job. And so I think, because that parking plan will not only ease parking on Main Street by reducing the time frames, but also shift, the busiest lot is the lot behind Diggers. But if we can shift some of the parking that's there north toward the Court Street parking area, and then ultimately part of our TOD plan involves a structured parking area there, it's all within walking distance. So the business, the people that are frequenting businesses on that West Main Street area, Diggers and all that, will have additional parking that way. Well, it should free up some parking. Again, not saying that that's going to solve the problem completely, but it definitely is a piece of the puzzle that I think we need to deal with. And then adding potentially some kind of structured parking on the north side of Main Street would be ultimately, I think, the best solution, because then those people could filter down to the town square, and it would really kind of take care of a lot of that.
Right, because if I come downtown and I want to go to Diggers and there's no parking behind it and I've got to park up by the railroad station, that's doable.
Right, exactly.
But I'll be honest with you, if I'm going to
Exactly.
park by the railroad station, I'm not walking down to the Rendezvous for
Correct,
dinner.
correct.
And
Right.
I'm not just saying myself alone, I think
Yep.
people generally feel that way.
And
And granted, in New York City, if you had to make that walk, you'd be happy, because that would be considered a short walk.
yeah.
But this isn't New York City.
No,
And
but
we
I-
have to remember that. And
and-
parking, to me, is
Yeah.
gonna be an issue, and we really need to put our heads together on it.
And that pylon, putting that pylon in
Correct.
place is gonna be important. And I think too, that we're ahead of it a little bit, even though it feels like we're not. We do have a strategic parking plan, and we do have plans to do structured parking that are very near in the future. So, that, it'll be a slow evolution to where we need to be, but the cost of structured parking, and this is what we've talked about and why we've engaged in these public-private partnerships, is it's $35,000 a stall. And then the town would have to maintain it, not only, and so it's a better way to go if we can get the private sector to build it, but,
Shouldn't projects like this contribute to that?
yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's what's
and
So
according-
he needs
Right.
99 parking spaces, and he's right in the center of town. So when somebody goes to the Suffolk Theater across the street, his residents, in the evening are taking up 100 spaces, right, in close proximity in the center of town. So it does hurt the restaurants and other things, like you says, the walking distance. I don't imagine that his people that are living in his apartments are going to want to park all the way up by the railroad station and carry their groceries and stuff home.
No, but some of the people that are parking in the spaces that are near this project could be parking, may most likely want to park behind Diggers up in that direction, and they're not able to do it because that lot's always full. So, and the time in the parking study, it talks about the time frames that we've allotted to different things, and we do have a lot of parking, we're just not effectively using it. So we really needed to get that project completed, which is, we're close.
You are correct, that's a very good point, and it's true, the parking study definitely showed that it's not being used to its
Exactly.
advantage.
I think only 57% at any time was being
Yeah.
used, and that was at the height, such as the county fair and,
No, it wasn't,
No, it
during-
wasn't.
no,
Not-
it
what
wasn't
was
during any events.
It was peak
Right,
times.
peak
but
times
not
on a weekday
during
and on
a
weekends,
normal event.
yeah.
It was,
All
it
right,
was,
so-
yeah. So I think that's important to do, because this stuff is happening now. But, this piece of property is really the bookend, the western bookend of the town square project. So if you look at that entire block now, what is being done is it's being imploded and rebuilt, and it's going to be, that heart transplant that you've looked for. So I think this is great. I just wanted to also mention that we talked about activating that alleyway between you and the Sunnies, which is now Lucio Cabana.
Yeah.
So we can continue to have that conversation and how it would be, but potentially, I think that could be pedestrian only. And,
I have a rendering I can show you, and that was my idea, but I had several meetings with the fire department, and they are completely against me having anything in that right of way.
okay, so that's something we can continue to talk about, because it could be
I can
dual
show you a
purpose,
rendering,
I
if you wanna see.
think, where it could be fire access and also pedestrian. As long as the fire department, as long as the structure supports the weight of the trucks and is wide enough for
It
that.
has to have the width,
Yes,
and I think the width is, what's the width, Don?
So at East Main Street, it's about 12 feet, and it widens to about 23 or 24 feet as you get to the south, in terms of just the improved roadway.
Okay, so this shows the right-of-way becoming just a pedestrian walkthrough. And then eventually, like, so I have this, a ramp here and stairs, eventually this grade would be brought up to here, which will actually make it even nicer. It'll flow and be closer to the same level as Main Street. Right now, there's maybe a 6-foot grade change from the front of the building to the back of the building.
So I have a question. The other rendering is 4 stories, that one spot. So
I actually call it a 4-story and mezzanine, even though it says 5
Oh.
on the plan.
Okay, I'm just,
So from here,
Yeah, the-
there's 1, 2, 3, 4 stories.
Right.
So from the front, it appears as if it's a 3-story building with a mansard roof with the angled setback. It's not quite the same as described in the pattern book. The pattern book has a 45-degree angle, but I actually pushed sections in on the building, and this is maybe angle 15 or 18%, I'm not really sure. So it gives the appearance from Main Street and from the narrow area with a low 1-story building, that it's a 3-story building and this mansard roof. From the back, we added a mezzanine level here, so the top 3 floors line up throughout. In the front where I have the food court, I want to have really high ceilings. My inspiration is Chelsea Market, and there's a few other markets in Manhattan. I want it to look like you're outside when you're inside. I can show you. I don't know if you can even see from here. So this is the outside of Chelsea Market, and it has black iron railings, similar to this. So this effect here, I'm trying to make look like Chelsea Market. I can just pass it around. In Manhattan. And Chelsea Markets. This is a different market, but I want to have 16, 18-foot ceilings inside that front space to look like the sunlight is coming through and you're outside. This would be the back. I want that type of feel. So the front of this building, the ceilings here, they're up here, they're really high. So to do that, I have this extra space in the back of the building that I don't need. So we created a mezzanine space.
Kind of like a Faneuil Hall up in Boston.
Right,
kind of effect,
right.
Yeah.
I see what you did.
So there's a mezzanine here. It only adds 6 apartments, which helps us financially quite a bit, but it's only this little section right here that adds.
And that's due to the elevation change from
Yes,
front to back? Okay,
correct.
gotcha.
And the building wouldn't be over height if we would have left it at ground level, but we raised it 4 feet because of the flooding issue.
So coming from the east, there would only be one way into, actually, when we do the town square, it's over.
that's only one way now. That's one way south currently. So, and it's not wide enough for two-way traffic. So,
No, but it
No,
will
I'm-
alleviate another access point to the rear.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
what, I think what Bob's trying to say.
Yeah, because you have McDermott.
Now you're gonna have
and you
Peconic
that
and McDermott.
access. So we'd only have McDermott. The question becomes, what does that do to the traffic on McDermott?
Well, you also have Peconic Avenue.
Yeah, Peconic
That
Avenue is, something we need to address maybe at another time where we don't let traffic through certain times of the day because you can't get in or out of there.
Yeah, it is a
I
tough
have to
spot.
say though, I mean, I understand on a nice day, I can understand the thinking of, go parking by the courthouse and then walking downtown. What I don't understand is if I'm paying market rate, these are all market rate apartments, correct? Okay. And there's any kind of event going on and it's snowing and raining, and if I've got a young child and I've got to park by the courthouse, okay, to walk to my market rate apartment, I'm a little like this on that, you know. Personally, I would love to see, and what they do in Holland is put the parking underneath, let it flood, so it becomes a retention for flood water, and when the flood recedes, pump it back out, and you get your parking garage back, underground. Because I just don't know what we're gonna do with,
It's just going to be very tough because the access point to the rear of his building is part of that.
that is the town
you know,
square.
So, yeah, so
That,
that's,
that,
you know.
that I understand, that makes it
But
different.
underground parking is a great idea. I don't think this is the location for it.
No,
Maybe on,
Yeah,
another
because of
location.
the town square, it doesn't.
And I'm
doesn't
also
really
not
work.
sure the water table height might not even allow it. So it might be wet all the time.
Yeah, I mean, when he first came in, it did, like I said, it did propose, I think it was like 12 parking stalls. Access was gonna be on the south end. There would be a couple of parking stalls that were angled, and then someone would have to exit through to that town parking lot right of way and exit back out to the south. But I mean, again, a project of this scale with only 12 parking stalls.
I understand, the expense to do that is, I get it.
I really like the rendering. It's wonderful, and like Dawn said, it's a perfect bookend to the new downtown scape.
Yeah, actually, I showed the plan to Bob Sanders, who did the pattern, but he loved it, loved the details, thought it was gonna be a great piece for downtown, and that building in his drawing is, I think, mine, and it pretty much shows everything that he wants. The only thing, he had this area of the building, let me say, square, and then setback, we have the setbacks, but I also wanted more open space on the bottom, so his plan is the 100% lot coverage, which we didn't want. We only wanted to keep it at 80, so people could still walk around through here if we wanted to create the space. So this actually is set back twice the amount, these sections, that he asked for even in his pattern book.
I love that you're setting it back and you're not going 100% because you lose, I'm concerned about the sidewalk, because if I look 10 years from now and all these places are built, you got a 3-foot, wide sidewalk, it's very shallow. And I see other towns that have shallow sidewalks that are developing are actually increasing that space for that reason.
Just to touch base on the plans, they did provide a test hole. At the south end of the property, groundwater is about 2 feet below grade. So that parking lot is gonna be wet all the time.
Build a marina.
A swimming pool, yeah.
Put your boat down.
Are you concerned with any kind of hydrostatic pressure in the future if it's 2 feet now? I guess, or will the,
No, the lowest part of our building is gonna be 4 feet above that 2 feet. We're
So you're
raising
at
it
6
4.
feet.
Right, so between 4 and
Okay.
6 feet higher will be then that 2 feet below grade.
With the addition of this unit and the unit behind Suffolk Theater, where are we at in terms of the 500 count on downtown apartments?
The last I checked, I believe if everything that's submitted right now was to get built and CO'd, I'm not 100% sure, I believe it was around 512 units.
That's with this 48?
I believe so, yes. I'll double check that, but I know Jeff had provided, he had compiled a list of all the existing projects that have been CO'd, submitted. I believe it was around 512.
But you also got the market study that came with the town square design project, and that's recommending abandoning that 500-unit cap.
Understood,
So-
yeah, understood.
Yeah, I mean,
I
in
was
the
just
interim,
curious where we were at.
Yeah,
in the interim right now, the way that code's written, it says basically 500 upon the issuance of a 500 certificate of occupancy. So the board should consider, because realistically, if building permits are issued on multiple projects, what are you gonna not give a guy a CO because he's the last guy in?
Yeah,
So
I don't know
that
how
is
that ever
something that-
came about, but that
It's
should have
it's
never
a,
been done.
We
it's
also
a-
have to consider the pattern book, comprehensive plan, which is, when is that gonna be completed? Jeff, do we have an idea? How far along are they?
We're about a third of the way through.
About a third? Thought we were a little bit higher.
Frank, how do we calculate a project that's magnitude, 48 apartments, bathroom, showers, everything else, water supply? How are they going to contribute to the overall water infrastructure in this town?
So that's something that's addressed in the map and plan. The map and plan, they base the hydraulic calculations off the unit size. I believe units up to 200, it's based on square footage. Up to 600 square feet, I think, is 225 gallons per day. Then there's a calculation for units that are 600 to 1,200 square feet, and then there's another calculation for 1,200 square feet or more. The map and plan takes your total uses, here's the number of apartments, these sizes, ground floor restaurant, ground floor commercial, fire service. That map and plan lays out all that engineering that's required for improvements to projects. And not to touch base on it, but
So it'll definitely be contributing to water infrastructure.
correct. And I mean, just to touch base, the map and plan, since the question was asked, the Water District did respond to the 205 Osborne mixed-use project. And that map and plan detailed a number of requirements for infrastructure improvement, including changing out water mains, changing out fire hydrants. Applicant was given a dollar amount for those improvements. It was significant. So that map and plan really justifies all the engineering and the need for those improvements. Right now, a lot of the existing water mains in downtown Riverhead are older, so they would need to be replaced, increased in size in order to support this and other development that's coming.
That's what I'm concerned about is fire suppression, not even just supply, but, a working structure fire down there is a completely different scenario in terms of trying to draw water in. I don't know how our current mains can handle that. Do you know, Frank?
Well, like Greg said, we would assess that, and if there were changes that needed to be made, we would ask for them to be made. It's very possible that maybe, or addition, redundant supplies, things like that.
That's all borne out in the coordinated secret, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it'll go to
that's
the water
part of it.
district, the applicant would need to pay for the map and plan, and that map and plan has all the engineering, the hydrogeologist and all the engineers that justify the need for it. On a maximum day where you've got your maximum peak demand, when everyone's getting ready for work, if there was a fire event, maximum demand plus fire flow, it'll address that.
Same for sewer.
Correct. Yeah, the
Yeah,
sewer,
right.
the last I checked, when I was looking for a comp plan update, the sewer district had about 500,000 gallons of capacity. I think they were rated for 1.5 million gallons. When I spoke to Michael Reichel, he said they were operating at about 1 million gallons per day. So there's sufficient sewer capacity, at least to facilitate at least the 500 unit build out within downtown.
And the town square.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the town square.
Very nice, thank you.
I agree with what Frank said and what Dawn mentioned as far as bookending the town square. I think it's really gonna be awesome. But we gotta address this parking somehow.
We really want it to be the landmark of downtown Riverhead. That's the name and our goal.
Oh, it's a beautiful building.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
The board have any other questions, concerns?
Oh, there's one
No,
other
I
point.
just,
The one thing that Greg did say, I went through and I agree with everything, and I think we complied pretty much with everything. The 3 feet pushback on Main Street, I think is a great idea. I thought we had to stay level with the buildings in the front. I didn't know we were allowed to go back further. So I'll talk to Jeff, and either we will shift the building back 3 feet, which we have plenty of room,
Yeah, you've got room in the back.
or I might want to just bring in the storefront 3 feet and have an overhang, so you could sit outside and be on the cover.
okay.
Yeah, especially with what you're designing there, with like a Chelsea Market.
Right.
So that there's plenty of outdoor seating, you can go out the back, or, well, probably, or out the front. Just I just think about 10 years from now. Everything, looks good now, but what does it look like in 10 years with, everything going on? But great, and I hope
I
I
have,
hope there's an organic market in there, which we don't have anywhere near
I hope
Riverhead.
so. I actually, my kids all, they think they're really cool, they're, 25, 30 years old, live in Manhattan. And I said, you get me 10 of the best places, like in Chelsea Pete Markets or Mama Fuku Milk Bar or Insomnia Cookies, you get me, I'll give them free rent for a year. I want to really create a destination in downtown Riverhead. This is going to be the cool place for lunch, to come in and hang out. And they got a lot of people interested. I said, I can't give them any paperwork yet, I don't have anything. But I have a lot of interest, and even local people in West Hampton, out east, and they think, it's great. They really, a little booth inside there, they think that it's going to be amazing.
I know the farm community is always interested in new spaces, even like a
Yeah.
Schmidt's horseradish booth or
Exactly.
something. So that's really cool too, yeah.
What do we need to do, Dawn, to implement the parking survey?
I think we've been talking about it, it's just a big project, so it's gonna take a couple of different, public hearings. We've laid out all of the changes, it's just now every single district has to have a code change to implement the new time restrictions so that it's enforceable.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of
It's
a
all
bear.
striped up color-wise for the code as
Yeah.
the plan is set up.
And then the pileup, we have to
Right,
adopt
and then
the
the
pileup.
pileup, we definitely have to adopt and get going.
So it's.
Didn't we have hourly signs up there a few years ago? that
We
came
have
down?
hourly signs, but we're changing them
It's
all
all
because the
old code, though. We're
the
changing
study
the code.
recommends, what happened was you could see what was happening. Like, we had parking lots that were stuffed to the gills, and then we had empty lots. And so Sam Schwartz came in and did a strategic plan which would analyze all of the parking and the usage of it, and recommended that we change a lot of the time. So for instance, Main Street's a 2-hour, you could park on Main Street for 2 hours. They're recommending that goes to 1 hour. And then they're talking about different time restrictions in different lots to really move the people that are staying for a short time, up front and close, and move the people that are staying for a longer time away. So the apartment, residents would be, if you were gonna stay for 4 or 6 hours. And then there were certain areas where you could stay overnight, but for the most part,
And they were pushed further away.
further away, so that the
Makes sense.
the patrons of the downtown businesses would have closer access. And then that should shift and use what we have in a better way. And it also recommends the TOD parking, so we're on that like hard now. So, and it looks like there'll be a structured parking facility either on the Griffin Avenue lot that the county owns or our lot, depending, but that's rapidly moving forward. And now we've got the town square funding. Some of that will go toward it, and I know the county of Suffolk's been very interested in partnering with you on redeveloping, I think, their lot for structured parking. So that, again, would suck some of the parking that's been, stuffed up in that Diggers area, because that's very accessible to West Main Street, and so it's not a hard walk, and that would empty out the west part of the Peconic Avenue lot. And that, so things just shift around. Again, it's never gonna be enough ultimately for what we hope will happen there, but with the parking plan and problem comes solutions. But you can't build $35,000 a unit parking structure. It's not fair to the taxpayer. So, but because you own those lots, you have that opportunity to leverage what you own to get the project you need, and that's what you've been doing, which is really brilliant. So I think, you'll get there. And you have that whole North First Street parking lot that belongs to the town, and you guys can take that and make it into another project and get the parking that will supply the necessary parking to the town square and to these, free up that south lot. There's ways to, the great part about this is it's not like Patchogue. We have solutions to these problems. It's just gonna take money, but that's a solvable problem, which is great.
Shouldn't projects like this now, before they're constructed, be required to finance some of those solutions?
And that's-
And that money
yes.
be put away in advance?
Yes.
So we approve this project, but, and then 10 years, we want to build a parking garage and we don't have the money. So I think now's the time
Yes.
where money should start being allocated for this so
And
that
it's
we begin to
recommended,
build a pot.
that is the exact recommendation of that parking study, and we have actually drafted public hearing notice to go to public hearing to implement that. So that's very, coming in short order too, so it's,
Can we set a public hearing for
yeah,
that?
I think we could talk to the town attorney's office and
Can we-
and
yeah.
get that going. We have a little work to do on it, but that's, it's time.
Yeah, why don't we try to set one up as soon as possible, because we do have a few projects going forward.
99 stalls at $35,000 a stall is $3.5 million.
And now go up
Are you
6.
prepared to put
That's-
$3.5 million up for parking?
That's not.
Find the
the-
space for it.
Wouldn't be
You understand my reason?
No, and I completely understand, but that's not the number in the parking study isn't 35 per, I'm just talking about why it's impossible for the town to do it. And also, that doesn't include long-term maintenance, that's maintenance and security and everything else. It's really a better project for a private developer on balance, and you have the land to offer to make that trade with someone to get what it is that you need. And I think that's the next focus, but you had to start a little fire to put it out, and so,
Right.
and you've done it, and so here
At
we
some
are.
point in time, I would think we want to send out an RFQ, right, for
Mm-hmm.
one, and see.
Yeah, I mean, that's next, I think.
But you're right, I mean, the cart before the horse,
You're not gonna get anybody to build it.
Right.
If there's nobody to use it, and
Right.
they're not gonna build it for free, so it's just that, but again,
Understood.
you have ways to solve these problems that are very simple, it's just the financial part of it, that's the hard part, so. But, we're all in the right direction, I think.
Good.
I'm not asking for $3.5 million. I'm saying some money should be allocated.
I think it is.
And that's correct, that's correct, yeah.
under the pilot program, it's not $35,000
Yeah, it's
in
like-
space. So
Yeah,
that's-
but
think
whatever
it's
it is, we got to
12.
figure it out, and money's got to be
But I
allocated.
think we've been using that practice, right? Recently?
I don't
Not
know
for
so.
anybody,
We
don't put
haven't-
anything aside.
No.
We haven't initiated that at all? Well then, okay.
Would you get credit for what's there now? If I have, whatever, it's 15,000 square feet retail that's there now, you get credit for that? So I don't actually need 99, I would only need maybe 59, because I already have a building that uses
Right, some of the
that.
commercial, some of your 99 is a commercial component of
Which is
your,
already
right,
there.
so that's, that's just a typical, so it's the residential component that would be
Correct.
what was contributing, yes, correct, that would be contributing, just the residential component is
knock it down
part
to
of the
98.
pilot, yeah.
Really nice looking project, though.
Yes,
Yeah, it
thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
It is, Wayne.
It is
It
beautiful.
really is.
Yeah, you put a lot of time into it. Best of luck,
Thank you.
and I think we'll work with the parking and, Tim, that's
absolutely.
that's your street.
We're working on it.
So if the board's all right with it, I'll add a resolution to the packet. It'll just be the secret classification and initiate the coordinator review. You can adopt that at the next meeting, and we'll send out the packets to all the involved agencies.
We're fine with that, right?
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll take a copy then.
Thank you, Greg, and for our next discussion item, we have Frank Mancini, our Water District Superintendent, to discuss changes in the cost of water service installations and meter reading equipment. And I'm gonna ask Frank to come forward, and Frank, I understand that this is gonna be a cost that's gonna be increased. And anytime we have an increase in cost, whether sanitation, water, sewer, it has to come before a work session. Just want to, Frank, I just want to make that clear.
Okay.
The public needs to know.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is for, just a resolution was put in, we didn't know about it, and that we inquired, and we made it now a work session. So, I know you have some information for us, and the floor is yours, Frank.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. This only involves charges, if you are currently a customer of the Riverhead Water District, this is not going to impact you. This only involves new service connections to the Riverhead Water District. We bid out the material we use to construct those services on an annual basis. We received those bids in early January, and many of those items have doubled in price. So we assess that, and we are changing those particular charges to reflect what we're paying. So, because we can't do them at a loss. It's not a big moneymaker for the district, but things like meter pits and copper pipe have doubled in price. So unfortunately, the one-inch service roughly doubles in price, but it's purely a reflection of the cost we're paying for the material we need to construct those one-inch services.
I get it.
Yep.
You know, my seed prices keep going up every year. I can't keep my price of grass the same.
Yeah.
It's just adjusting with the market, and, you know, it's not gonna affect anybody retroactively, so
No.
just all new buildings, I get it 100%.
Okay, so increase them what you have to increase them.
It's everything, it's lumber, construction, and so forth, and I imagine water, through the means of water sales only, it would be way too many years to try to make that money back if you didn't increase it. So you gotta cover your costs.
Yeah, if we did a service now at a loss, what would happen is the ratepayers of the Riverhead Water District would subsidize the cost of what we're charging you, the new customer, and what it costs us to do the actual service. That wouldn't be fair to them.
Correct.
Well, it is our responsibility to do that, you
Yeah.
know, so thank you.
Yeah.
You know, to ensure that we protect the taxpayers
Yeah.
when they're not bearing any of the fruit of the cost.
Yeah, they already
So-
paid for their one-inch service.
Yeah, good.
Frank,
Okay.
what's the availability of products? Is
Well,
that
that's
a...
an excellent question, because one of the phone calls I just took, I feel terrible for. We owe a 2-inch service to someone in Wading River, and it's, 2-inch material used to come overnight, now it's 16 weeks lead time. So I originally
Wow.
told this person, we'll be there in 2 weeks, now I gotta tell them, you know, the moment it shows up, we will be there to install your service, but I really don't have an answer, and my friends in the metal business tell me it's only gonna get worse. So we can only stock so much, same as our contractors who installs the larger than 1-inch services,
Right.
but the supply chain issues and material issues are real, and I don't have a real answer as to when that's going to get better.
Look in the camera and say you're sorry.
I apologize.
Maybe they're watching.
Frank, are you working with other towns, given that everybody has these same issues? And it's understandable that one town does not want to, stock up a lot of inventory. Is there any initiative going on, working with other towns? There's something going on in the county to develop
Well,
inventory?
I'm active in Long Island Water Conference, and that's a consortium of all water suppliers on Long Island. So in the event of emergency, it's not unprecedented for us to, if I needed a meter pit from Hampton Bays or vice versa, and we had one, we could do that. But generally, we all bid our material annually, and there's
Right.
been some consolidation in the business, so there's really only 2 big vendors, Ferguson and T-Mina, that supply the material. So I would say we're kind of all in the same boat. And we really depend on each other's in the event of emergencies, you know. But
Thank
that's
you.
about it.
Great, all right.
That's it.
Keep the water flowing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks,
you,
Frank.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next, Devin, good morning. Can you please read the resolutions for us today?
So I have Bill, he's not able to be with us today, and neither was his deputy, so I have him on speakerphone if you guys have any questions for him. He's
Okay.
available, all right? Okay, resolution number 1, awards bid for propane fuel and equipment maintenance 2022. Number 2, authorize the supervisor to execute a stipulation with Local 1000 AFSCME, AFL-CIO Riverhead Unit of the Suffolk Local 3852. Number 3, authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice to bidders for lubricants. Number 4, adopts amendment of local law of the Riverhead Town Code, Chapter 301, entitled Zoning and Land Development regarding signs. Number 5, authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice to bidders for diesel generator maintenance. Number 6, authorization to publish and post notice to bidders for electric motor repair and replacement, including emergencies. Number 7, appoints a call-in recreation specialist to the Recreation Department. Number 8, appoints a call-in assistant recreation leader. Number 9, sets salaries of various recreation employees for the year 2022. Number 11, authorize the supervisor to execute lease agreement between the Riverhead Water District and Dish Wireless LLC, Old Country Road site. Number 12, authorize the supervisor to execute lease agreement between Riverhead Water District and Dish Wireless LLC, Plant Number 9 site. Number 13, authorize the supervisor to execute lease agreement between the Riverhead Water District and Dish Wireless LLC, Pulaski Street site. Number 4, grants preliminary site plan approval for the site plan application of 205 Osborne Avenue, mixed-use building 205 Osborne Avenue, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-128-2-21.2 and 22. Number 15, appoints a public safety dispatcher 1. Number 16, ratifies acceptance of donation from Schneider family. Number 17, authorizes execution of agreement with Seed Clam Administrator. Number 18, authorization for an employee to attend the International Association Arson Investigators Conference. Number 19, grants final site plan approval for the amended site plan application of Island Water Park, 5835 Middle Country Road, Cavington, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-135-1-7.34. Number 20, authorizes extension of bid for HVAC service contract. Number 21, authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider the adoption of a local law entitled Local Law to Increase Salary of Town Highway Superintendent for 2022 fiscal year, subject to permissive referendum. Number 22, ambulance district budget adjustment. Number 23, adopt Town of Riverhead local solid waste management plan update.
I apologize to the town board, I'm going to ask that resolution come out of the packet, while secret.
Maybe you want to come to the microphone?
This is the one with engineering, and Drew is going the 10-year.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So while the secret process actually was initiated probably in June, a final draft approved by the DEC was not actually available to planning. And as the town board is likely aware, I think the letter from the DEC came on December 17th of 2021. In that letter, that's when we knew we had a good copy, and they instructed us to do two things. However, in order for Jefferson to actually complete the secret record, he needed that copy that we were going to move forward on. So I wasn't aware that we hadn't completed that process. Jeff has assured me that we have the preliminary secret steps in place. He'll move as swiftly as possible to finalize. I know Drew's going to be disappointed, but secret record is required. It's a type 1.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Okay. Where's Bob?
He just stepped out in the hall.
Eric, what do we need just to remove it? I think we have to just agree.
We can just pull it at this stage.
Oh, hold on, I'm asking another question. I want to get it from the legal. Yeah. Bob, you just, okay, do we need an agreement from everyone, or at least a few?
It's a work session.
Okay, we could just pull it? Okay, great. That's a future reference, so we know. Okay, then let's pull it.
Okay, Resolution 24, budget adoption for the environmental and safety investigation of unsafe structure at 168 Creek Road, Wading River, New York. Number 25, accepts the resignation of a public safety dispatcher 1. Number 26, amends Resolution 2021-765. Number 27, ratifies the reclassification of a grants technician. Number 28, approves highway superintendent expenditures. Number 29, 1998 Peconic LLC, project number 82201, budget adoption. 30, awards bid for sewer chemicals. 31, authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for recreation brochure. Number 32, rejects bid for restoration of cupola at George Young Community Center. Number 33, authorizes the supervisor to execute a municipal cooperation agreement between the town of Riverhead and the Riverhead Fire District for sand and salt services, nunc-pro-tunc.
Just back up a second for the rejection of the bid on the cupola. Do we know why?
We probably want to grab Dawn to expand upon that.
I thought it had something to do with the amount.
Did
The
it come
dollar
in way
amount.
overpriced?
Yeah,
or-
that's
think
what I
so.
thought.
Could
We'll
be.
see.
I don't know the answer to it, so I'm kind of curious.
So maybe we'll come back to that. That's
Sure.
number 32. So number 34, exercises an option to renew an agreement with Fundamental Business Services, Inc., Parking Violation Enforcement Services, nunc-pro-tunc. Number 35, authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Eros Cultural Oyster Company to allow the installation of floating upweller system Flupsy in East Creek.
All right, Dawn is here with us, Devin. Dawn? Regarding the resolution
For
on the cupola?
It was too high, the bids were too high?
Yeah, and my office didn't handle that. I'm assuming it was
Engineering.
or
I
purchasing.
did just read a paragraph on it,
Okay,
so I'm
okay,
I'm
very
set
good.
with it.
All right,
Thank
good.
you, Dawn.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was what it was.
Okay, so resolution number 36 authorizes the supervisor to execute a professional services agreement with Zakavich. And 37 sets fees for the winter brochure.
Just for the public on the agreement with Bob, could we explain that?
Yes, our town attorney is retiring as of this coming Friday. We have a process in place, which I've, spoken to you about. Myself and Bob Kearns, we're interviewing possible attorneys, and the determination is going to be made next week, and a resolution will be forthcoming. And this is just a limited agreement that we have in case we need him. We can consult with him either by phone, through Zoom, or through email. It's a temporary agreement. He has agreed to the terms, and that resolution is just going to solidify that if we need him within the next few weeks, we don't expect him here because he's going to be traveling, but in the case that he has to, he said he will if he's available, but it's mostly going to be done electronically. So we are looking at, we have a team of 3 people. We opened up the lines of communication for, through Indeed, for people to provide us with resumes. We have conducted many resumes. We're just about completing the second resumes. We have Dawn Thomas, was the town attorney for 12 months on the committee. We want to make sure that we make a very informed, well-rounded decision. And I know there's 2 people who have placed interest, serious interest, and everybody's being considered.
I was really getting at, I thought
Oh,
Bob
sorry.
was moving down to the rainforest in the Amazon, so I wasn't sure if we were gonna be able to get a hold of him, how we were gonna do that. Whether it was smoke signals or what you were gonna do down there to get a hold of us, but,
Or in Mexico,
Yeah.
language barrier.
yeah,
So that's the extent of it.
okay.
And if we need him for more, it's open, but it's just to keep continuity, and we should resolve this within the next week or so.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Devin and everyone, and this is going to conclude our work session for today. In a moment, I'm going to ask for a first and a second to enter in the executive session to discuss the following. Number 1, personnel matters surrounding change of status of employees with Chief Hegemiller. And the second item is contractual matters surrounding possible amendment to contract between Town of Riverhead and European American. That's our sanitation system that we have in place, and that's going to concern Prudential, Dillingham, and Rothar. And can I please have a first and a second to go into to close this town board meeting?
I'll motion. Close.
Thank you, everyone, and this work session is closed. Have a good day. Remember, there's an impending snowstorm coming, and we're gonna have updates on our website, and any advisories will be put on our website. Thank you, and please be safe.
That was your cardboard.
That's fine.